Hi guys, it's Julian and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we will continue reading this book, Polyglot Notes, and well, in the last video we started a new chapter, which it is how to improve our listening skills, and we mentioned a couple of techniques which we can apply to improve our listening, and between those we mentioned watch movies and series in our target language, make dictations, like we listen a particular file and we start to write those things that we understand of that file. And well, the last one that we mentioned was listen to songs. So let's go ahead with that to make a recap, and let's continue. Listen to songs. At first, choose quiet and not too rhythmic songs. Listen to their words. Listen to their words. Listen to the song and look through its lyrics with your eyes to better understand the words. Listen to the audiobooks. It is the same principle as when working with songs. Unlike, okay, wait me a second. Listen to the audiobooks. It is the same principle as when working with songs. Unlike video, you cannot see the plot, facial expressions, and emotion of the characters. The focus here is completely on the auditory perception. Initially, we listen to the part of the audiobook with its text in front of your eyes. For the second time, without a writing text, focus your attention on capturing all the sounds, the pace of the pace of speech, the emotional coloring on the speaker's speech, stressing the words. You can even close your eyes for a full immersion in the language. Use a native speaker's pronunciation standard. For more attentive and focused work on speech recognition, use audio materials read by professional speakers, ethnic native speakers. They should be an example of how to pronounce foreign speech. This should form your basis for listening comprehension and then speaking skills. You can object and say that the words it's multicultural, and we must understand the speech of the other. Oh, dude. Again, this is the last point. This should form your basis for listening comprehension and then speaking skills. You can object and say that the world is multicultural, and we must understand the speech of other foreigners for whom the language is not their mother tongue. If you strive to master the standard of a foreign language pronunciation, you will either understand the pronunciation with the accent of the foreigners, or you will not, because they will pronounce words incorrectly or not pronounce certain sounds at all because they are not present in their native language. And this foreigner did not bother to set himself more or less decent pronunciation, phonetics. So you will only have to try to understand them when communicating, but not to learn their accent. Do not use in your training materials in which the speakers speak with an accent. Do not use in your training materials in which the speaker speaks with an accent. If you do not know how to sound pure speech, you can find a pronunciation card online. So basically, here the book and the author mentioned that if we listen podcasts, for example, we need to use a podcast in which the speaker speaks like a native speaker. Like you need to find a person who is a native speaker and sound as a native speaker, because then we can have the reference about how a native speakers use the language in an appropriate way. Of course, there are many people around the world which speak English as well, and it's not the native tongue, but sometimes have many there are many errors in their speech. Like, for example, when we speak with a person from India, they usually have an accent, and it could be kind of difficult for us understand them. So, and have a lot of slangs and phonetics of their native language. But of course, we can communicate each other because we can understand them. But if we want to improve our vocabulary and our phonetics and the way in which speak and listen to get used the language from a native speaker, it's better to use those resources which use a person who it is native from the English language. Okay, do not use in your training materials in which the speaker speaks with an accent. If you do not know how to sound pure speech, if you don't know how to sound pure speech, you can find a pronunciation card online. Learn to recognize non-standard speech. After you learn to recognize the correct pronunciation of speakers, you can plunge into the whole variety of non-standard speech. One way or another, you cannot avoid meeting people from different cultures, nationalities, ages, social backgrounds, native speakers of different dialects and accent in the pronunciation of the language. Each person speaks individually. You will have to understand others people's speech. You can use special training audio dialogues as well as audio plays, audiobooks, movies, and cartoons as materials. These include speech samples of young children, teenagers, the elderly, people from different social backgrounds with their manner of speaking and slang, native speakers' dialect, and accents from different nationalities. All you have to do is learn to understand what you're hearing. You should not seriously focus on this. The main purpose of this exercise is to show you the difficulties you will have to face in real communication and adapt easily to quickly changing non-standard speech. So yeah, basically we will use the speech from a person who use the language as a native speaker to recognize the sounds in an appropriate way, and then we need to get used to the way in which other people speak the language, like in this case English for me, and recognize their accent, their slangs, and then quickly adapt our language to those slangs and idioms quickly to have a conversation. And yeah, that's it basically. Audition with a noisy background. Audition with a noisy background. Very often you have to listen to speech with external noise and poor acoustics that interfere with your listening experience. This can be noise on the street. Traffic, or large crowds of people. The purpose of the exercise is to learn how to perceive all oral The purpose of the exercise is to learn how to perceive oral speech regardless of extraneous noise, as well as speech that is distorted by acoustic, such as voice announcement at a train station or airport, over the telephone or internet, etc. For such listening, you can use special educational audio materials, audio plays, cartoons, movies, and TV series, as well as visiting theatrical performance in the language you are studying. Repeated listening to the audio material. Repeated listening to the audio material. Repeated listening to the audio material. There are audio phrases where various dialogues from real-life situations are played out, such as in a shop, cafe, meeting in a hotel in the city, expressing your wishes and requests, etc. Listen also to audio dialogues in order. Listen also to audio dialogues in order, from simple to complex. Do not rush to listen to all dialogues at once. Okay. Listen also to audio dialogues in order, from simple to complex. Do not rush to listen. Do not rush to listen to all the dialogues at once. If you just start listening to the language, start with the very first audio and play it 15-20 minutes. No, sorry, again. Do not rush to listen to all the dialogues at once. If you just start listening to the language, start with the very first audio and play it 15-20 times. You can do more. Before you start listening to the audio, examine the writing text, the grammatical structure, and the translation of each word into your native language. Listening this way for at least 1 hour per day. You can split this hour into 2 times 30 minutes. You can listen for more time. You should know that initially such concentrated listening can be psychologically tiring for you. You should know that initially such concentrated listening can be psychologically tiring for you. Your brain is not yet used to receiving and processing this kind of information. To keep your attention focused, you can use headphones and MP3 player for listening. Technically, such audio material should not contain extraneous sounds at all. Technically, such audio material should not contain extraneous sounds that say fake the noise of the motor, rain, passerby, barking, dogs, etc. After a few auditions, this will start to get on your nerves. The speaker's speech is clear, correct, average, peace, and emotional. The audio material should not contain verses in your native language. The audio material should not contain verses in your native language. It should contain only foreign speech on which you need to focus your attention, and in which you should completely immerse yourself, moving away from the sound of the outside world. Once you feel that you've learned not only to recognize words, know their meaning, but also to hear the sounds in them, then proceed to listen to the next audio. With each subsequent dialogue, you will accelerate its development. You can choose and make such audio materials for listening by yourself using the computer program of audio editing. Basically, here the author mentioned that we need to use we need to repeat many times a video in our target language, which the speaker speak in our target language, and repeat the same video many times, ideally in 1 hour per day, and repeat the same video, and eventually we will release what is the meaning of the words which appear into the video. But at the same time, before to watch those videos, we need to make the transcript in our native language, because otherwise we won't understand anything. And actually that's a problem that I have. When I watch videos on German, I don't understand anything. So usually the best way to make this, it could be, first of all, translate it to Spanish, which it is my native tongue, or English, which I understand the meaning of the sentences, translate it to those languages, read the script and then start to watch the video again with all that meaning in my head, or at least all that context in my head. Then I can start to watch those videos many times, and then I will start to understand what is happening into the video and the meaning of the words. So it's a good way to do it, actually. Okay, let's go ahead. Stages of listening to the audio text from textbook. Stages of listening to the audio text from the textbook. The audio text tutorials offer exercises. They are expected to be performed into the next stages of the listening process: before the listening, during the listening process, after the listening. The exercises before the listening contain preliminary information about audio text. As you get to know, the exercises before the listening contain preliminary information about the audio text. As you get to know the questions and discuss the answers, you will hear the words and sentences that will be used in the text. Pay attention to the nuances of the content and meaning that will be further discussed. A list of words that may be unfamiliar to you is given in advance. From the name of the title, identify what the content of the audio text is about. What issues and problems related to these topics will be discussed. If there are 2 or more students, you can have a short conversation to determine what they already know about the problem. It is possible that the textbook will include an appropriate illustration of the audio text. This may help to form an idea of what you will hear in the audio recordings. This way, when you get preliminary information about the topic of the audio text, preliminary information about the topic of the audio text, you can concentrate on specific points during your listening. During the actual playback of the audio text, you will present it with exercises to be performed during the listening process. Let's take a look at some of the exercises that you may be given. Listen to the text and insert the missing words in the following sentences. What do you think words may be missed and why the choices falls on them? Okay, listen to the text. Okay, let's take a look at some of the exercises that you may be given. Listen to the text and insert the missing words in the following sentences. What do you think words may be missed and why the choices falls on them? Keywords that carry basic information, prepositions, articles, unfamiliar words. 2. Listen to the text and say which of the following phrases were used. Listen to the text and say which of the following phrases were used without any changes. Listen to the text and say which of the following phrases were used in it without any changes. Listen to the text and say which definitions to the following words were used in it. Finish the next sentences. There is a beginning of a sentence. And the end of. Finish the 4. Finish the next sentences. There is a beginning of a sentence and the end is missed. The middle of the sentence is missing. Miss the beginning of the sentence, but there is an ending. Listen to the text and find the corresponding equivalent. Listen to the text and say reply back to the quiz what is said about anything. Answer the content of the audio text. In the stage after the listening, the exercises for audio text are performed. In the stage after the listening, the exercises for audio text are performed. By the nature of the exercises can be the same as in the previous stages. Pupils discuss what they have heard. All nuances and incomprehensible moments are analyzed. Mistakes are being worked on. This looks like a university exercise or a high school or a school exercise. It's kind of boring for me actually. I don't like this kind of exercises. Okay, next topic. Listen to and watch the news. The news is useful not only because you keep abreast of the latest events in the world, but also because you listen to the speaker's competent speech. There are educational news sites where audio materials are accompanied by written text and exercises. This is pretty useful, and usually I use this kind of resources to practice my listening and my speaking as well. I make shadowing of the text. Listen to different materials. Stream series, listen to different materials. Stream series and movies, shows with news and audiobooks. Keep an eye out for unfamiliar words. Keep an eye out for unfamiliar words. A common novice mistakes. Okay. Novice. Novice. A common novice mistake is the process of distracting. A common novice mistake is the process of distracting an unfamiliar word when listening to an oral text. A common novice mistake is the process of distracting an unfamiliar word when listening to an oral text. You start to think about what it means while the speech continues. Okay. A common novice mistake is the process of distracting an unfamiliar word when listening to an oral text. You start to think about what it means while the speech continues. This way you focus on the unfamiliar vocabulary and lose the thread of the narrative, and you do not have to do it. Try not to be distracted by the deciphering of an unfamiliar word, but continue listening to the audio recording. You will understand what the context is all about. You will understand. Okay, this paragraph was awful for me. This way you focus on unfamiliar vocabulary. This way you focus on the unfamiliar vocabulary and lose the thread of the narrative, and you do not have to do it. Try not to be distracted by the deciphering of an unfamiliar word, but to continue listening to the audio recording. You will understand what the context is all about. Yeah, but basically you don't need to get distracted for an unique word, and you need to continue stay focused in the speech, and you will get the meaning of the context. Please continue listening. Do not interpret. Give me a second. Listen and watch the news. Well, until now, guys, this video, I hope you find it useful. Give me a like and subscribe, and see you later, and bye bye.